Welcome back to OpenLine. I'm Carrie Sharp here with Matt Lowney, a career advisor, and we're talking about finding a job in 2016. And we say in 2016 for a reason, because it's December 21st, and a lot of bosses are not thinking about looking at applications right now.
That's absolutely, man. As the guy on the inside trying to get, hire managers to do something, the motivation is pretty low.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's all there is to it. But if you're looking for a job, it doesn't matter when what
need a
kind of
job
counter.
now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about what you should be thinking about over the next few days and what you should be doing to get your foot in the door. Let's talk about where to apply. Where do you find those sources of jobs?
Sure. So here's the math on. There's the three best places online to look for a job. Is the number one place people don't realize. Employers mostly don't list where job seekers look, which is Google. They just go directly to Google search and go nurse, Nashville, Tennessee, and see what comes up. The second kind of on volume is a website called Indeed.com, which is essentially a Google of job boards. So it goes and scrapes every other job board out there and aggregates those, and it's a pretty handy tool.
Indeed.com?
Indeed.com, I-N-D-E-D. And then obviously everybody's heard about Career Builder. So CareerBuilder.com is still a huge volume game. But I think what's interesting about Indeed is as an employer, you have to pay to put it on Career Builder, just like the old newspaper ads. Indeed, as an employer, you largely don't have to.
That's attractive.
And so it's free, and it's got a bigger, casts a pretty wide net looking for a job seeker. So Indeed is a really popular one, and one people probably think negatively about, which is a pretty good resource, actually Craigslist. And here's why. I mean,
Craigslist.
So yeah, don't think, it's not the days of I'm afraid somebody's gonna do something suspicious, because here's one of the areas where most job growth is small and medium-sized employers. Employers that have less than 50 or 100 employees, but they have enough money, they pay decent. You probably have connectivity to the boss and all that, which small to mid-sized employers are fantastic. They're not going to spend all this money and this energy, and they probably don't have the savvy to post a job. Craigslist, you should be shocked at how many companies, legitimate firms that have decent, high-paying jobs are posted on Craigslist. Just go to Nashville Craigslist, it's organized, and a lot of small employers, that's all they use. I mean, I know lots of guys who own small companies, that's where they find their people. And tends to be also, they kind of have a little bit more tech savvy, if you will, because it's not weird for somebody who's kind of more technologically aligned to look for a job there, because they probably found a roommate there at one point or bought their car there.
Yeah, true.
And so it's not weird of them as seeing that as a marketplace for jobs.
Yeah.
So I would look at all of those. I mean, if you've got nothing but time.
Why not?
But again, organize the effort. I think that's the thing so many people don't do well, which is, what are you the market? Kind of what's my skill set? And let's be honest about that, and don't get too many people get distracted by worrying about what it pays. Frankly, the market will set that. You're not going to be grossly underpaid or grossly overpaid. The market takes care of that. And if you're grossly overpaid, we'll be happy with that.
Exactly. Don't tell anybody.
Just shut up. Yeah, it'll be fine. But then say, hey, I want to do sales roles, or I have this, whatever that is, a house cleaner or whatever, and say what kind of companies do I want to work for? What are those industries that I want to do sales for? Who are the companies? Who at those companies do I need to talk to? And I would give you kind of two answers. So you've got a list of companies. If you're not on LinkedIn and you're looking for a job, well, that's a huge miss. Me as a recruiter, that's my number one resource to find people.
Really?
I'm on LinkedIn probably 4 hours a day, and because on the other end it's a database, so it tells me somebody that's a newscaster in Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to come up with 10 names, so defines my list for me. Who am I going to do? Reach out to all 10 of you. So if you're not on LinkedIn, but it's also a great opportunity as a job seeker to figure out who's at the company.
Yes.
More importantly, who do you know at the company? Likely you probably don't, but you may have a former coworker that now works there, and you don't realize that connection.
It's kind of a spider web. You say, oh, this person used to be there, and then I know this person. I'm going to reach out to that person, see if I can get in contact with this person.
That's exactly. So it gives you a reason to kind of reach, hey, we used to work together. Hey, I see an opportunity. Can you connect me? So you either want to get to somebody like me in recruiting, which is fine, or somebody in a decision-making role at the organization, which isn't always the CEO. So many people email, but it's the head of sales.
Right.
Find out who the head of sales is. They're going to be impressed that you put the effort
to finding them.
To find them and reach out to them.
So that's not like they're not going to what a kiss up or what a. Yeah.
But the problem is if they do, who cares? I mean, I would say, it's not weird anymore. I think that's the thing. I can't tell you how many emails I get forwarded by somebody who's reached out to one of my managers. They say, hey, the resume looks interesting, and they send it back to me, and so what am I going to do? I'm pretty much obligated to call the guy.
Right, you got to check it out.
So I've got to check it out. So you've kind of put me in a boat that I've got to, and it's not pushy anymore. I think now if you call, the opposite. You send an email, an hour later you call and you send
Right.
it again. And there are situations where I've had people do this. We'll send their resume to 10 people in the company. It creates backflow chaos.
It's too much.
And it looks a little desperate. I mean, just be honest about it. But I mean, there's a lot of focused work within that. I mean, you may spend 2 hours trying to find the right person to get the right information to that's a right fit, but that could be the best 2 hours you spend. Or you can apply to 40 jobs online and drive
Right.
yourself nuts.
Yeah, and just have your fingers crossed that it lands on somebody's desk that you hope has the right job and
That's
maybe
right.
looks at it.
And I'm on the other thing. So people apply online and they think it's this black hole abyss. And
Yes.
it is a problem employers recognize. They are starting to worry about things like candidate experience, and they don't want to be a black hole employer. But the reality is, I'm on the other end of that. When you apply, it goes into a queue. And so if it says newscaster, there might be 200 names there, and then I click on it. And that's not the first thing I'm doing at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get to that when I get to it, in maybe 2 or 3 days. And hey, if the first 6 people who applied look good, I'm going to spend my effort on that.
Right.
I'm not going to go through the other 194 hoping there might be
Somebody better.
somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's a timing game. It's a whole lot of things out of your control, and you just have to accept that. You know, you just have to get right
That's
with
the
that.
hard part is accepting it. But knowing where to go. Let's talk about networking.
Yep.
Some tips there. You mentioned LinkedIn.
So LinkedIn as a platform is fantastic. But I mean, again, it's remember who you know, and you've may have forgotten it, but I'm forever getting phone calls from people I worked with 10 years ago, and typically I'm pretty receptive to it. And most people would be. Hey, we worked together all these years ago, and we had a good time. And by the way, I'm looking for a job if you know something, and ask their opinion. Hey, what do you see me doing? Involve them.
Yeah.
It's a little uncomfortable. I think you've probably been a receiver of these calls. Hey, I'm looking for a job. Of course, I would help you if I could.
Sure.
But then where does that conversation go? I'm sorry. I hate to end phone calls with like, oh man, I hope things get better. I mean, it's just a really negative tone. I think you think about that conversation in terms of, hey, obviously, I'm on the market looking, but hey, I'm open to several things. Who are the type of people you think I should be talking to, or are there other people you can introduce me to? Because you want to help me.
Yes.
I just need to allow that to kind of happen. So I look at that and I go, you can help me by saying, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or hey, there's this other guy I used to work with. Let me connect you to him. That's all you're trying to do. You don't really want to put people in that kind of pressed, help me find a job here at the station. Well, that's out of your control.
Yes.
Keep it organized. I mean, get an Excel spreadsheet, get a pad of paper. I don't care what your organization thing is, because you will find as you start spiraling out, you will have forgotten who you talked to.
Sure.
And I've been guilty of this. I'll have talked to somebody and like 2 weeks later talk to them again like I've never talked to them before, and you're like, you dummy, we talked 2 weeks ago about this same thing, and you're going, I've had 200 conversations since then. So stay organized, and that's the other, and follow up. I can't tell you how many times I will send an email, and I'll even make it so simple. I'll copy you on an email. Hey, Carrie, meet Jay. Hey, Jay, this is something really interesting. We had lunch today. I think somebody should know. And hey, you made the connection. I made the connection to email, and I say, I'm out of this.
Right.
And nothing ever happens. It's amazing to me how many times either nothing happens, like you don't follow up with Jay, or what I like to see is when somebody will then follow up and hey, we had a great conversation, so give me a little closure.
Right.
It's a lot of I think people just kind of forget, and maybe it's a desperation thing, maybe it's just they don't know how or whatever, but they kind of follow up and follow through, and you got no option, so you just got to be really organized about it.
Let's talk about the resume. One resume, get it done?
Too many people think they have one version of their resume.
Yes.
And I think that's a guilty party. Everybody kind of feels like I've got my resume.
Because it's a chore to put it together.
It is, first of all, a marketing tool and not a career, and it sounds weird, it is not a career summary. Everything you've ever done always does not need to be on there back to 1974.
Okay.
I think you go back 10 years, age-proof your resume a little bit, like don't show the year you graduated college. That's okay. Go back 10 or 15 years or whatever is relevant. That many employers are really not that age discriminatory, but why
give me a chance
seed?
To? Yeah.
I think don't put a summary section, because here's why you mess up the summary section. One, you don't change it, so it'll say, hey, I'm looking for a job at XYZ company, you're sent to another company. I get that all the time. I will never call that guy back. Two is you're going to say things that are right below it. So instead, I think you make it action right. Here is 10 years of sales experience, beat quota, blah, 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 year. 3 bullet points go into it, and no more than 2 pages. I mean, I literally the other day got a 17-page academic resume.
Whoa.
It's a little bit more common for academics because you got 6 pages of publishing or whatever, but there's no way in God's green earth the guy in recruiting's reading this thing. I go to page 2 and I go, hey, can I count for whatever you've done? And then change it per job. I'm not saying change titles. Do not lie about when you work somewhere your job was. But a couple things people could do. If they work at a company in the past that has kind of goofy titling, a lot of them do to be culture intensive, translate the title. Like, for instance, People Services Manager. I know that means HR Manager. Somebody else may not. So tell them your title in parentheses, put People Services Manager. 2, don't assume everybody knows every company. I love it when somebody works at a company. I mean, I probably know 3,000 or 4,000 companies off the top of my head, like what they actually do. And I get a resume every single day. I'm like, I have no clue what that company is. So take it. Another sentence. It is a textile manufacturing company based in Louisville, Kentucky.
Gotcha.
And then order your bullet points. This is one thing I tell folks. When you go see a job description, it is written in priority order. So if the top 3 things are not the top 3 things, but they're like 6, 7, and 8 on your bullet points, how do I know that those aren't some secondary, tertiary thing you did? If they were primary part you do and the employer's telling you they're important, take the 2 minutes and go order them out. Make it as idiot-proof for the other person on the phone as you possibly can. And that's when I say tailor these aren't wholesale changes.
Sure. Don't
put your picture on it. I can't tell you how many people I get resumes, and it never looks right, never looks professional. And that's all. Don't overthink the exercise. So many people think, look at it as a marketing tool, make sure it's focused on the job you apply for. But I would rather send my resume, if I'm looking for a job, after I've had a conversation, after I've had an introduction. I won't apply online as an order of last resort.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so many people do that, and
because then you get in that black hole and you're like, I hope they got it.
Then you're left in this kind of awkward follow-up conversation, which is this, and I get these voicemails 10 times a week. Hey, I applied online. I want to make sure you got my resume. Okay, I got it.
Then what? Well,
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I'm like, I would have called you if I loved you.
Yes.
And I clearly haven't. So, I mean, it's one of those.
I like your honesty.
But, I mean, I look at it and go, you need to, hopefully you've done this right, you've had phone calls, the resume just reinforces that, and the question with the resume is, hey, attaches my resume, let me know when we can set up a follow-up call or the next person or whatever.
Okay.
So that's my take on it.
Do's and don'ts of resumes. Good start right there. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. Again, if you have any questions about finding a job in 2016, go ahead and give us a call. We've got the lines open right now. I thought more of you would be calling because maybe that's good for the job market. Maybe everybody's right where they want to be. But go ahead and give us a call during this commercial break. We will be right back.